This is our Path to a Million. It's monthly. It's a very elite group, Ben. Everyone here is from the Experience Brokerage Network, right? Or the BKCO network, and you guys are all doing 15 million in volume or higher. It's kind of a coordinated effort with Ben and Chris. And then once a quarter, I'm going to bring on some guests. So I already have them lined up for next month, and I'm going to surprise you with this. And that's, I think that's really it, Ben. It's your show today, my friend.
Oh, it's my show. I love it when it's my show. So why are we doing this? It's because all of my agents in our brokerages got sick of Ben, so they want to see Chris, and everybody in Chris's brokerages got sick of Chris, and they want to see somebody, not necessarily Ben, but anybody but Chris. So you guys are all in for a welcome surprise today. Hi, Craig. Awesome. So I have some thoughts on what we can talk about today, but I didn't want to do a webinar where you all just sit in the background and check Facebook and, you know, look at your stocks and how they're doing. I kind of wanted to have a real conversation about what's going on in your world. So I'm going to ask a simple question, and I'd like as many of you as possible to give me a one-line answer. And that is, if you walked away today with one question answered, what would it be? And instead of me answering them, I would love to just have you all just one at a time say, this is what's on my mind. So who wants to go first? Thank you for volunteering. Adam's up. Adam, for 1,000. Go ahead.
Streamlining transaction coordinators.
Okay, tell me more about that.
I've got 3 of them, and we're lacking clarity in exactly what their job roles are versus what my salespeople's job roles are. Working weekends, who's writing the offer, when a mistake happens.
Are they in-house employees, Adam, or are they independent TCs?
In-house employees.
Okay, great, cool. Who's next? We walked away with one thing today, and we had a little fun, and we had a question answered in our minds. What would it be?
I'd like to be a better coach for my agents.
Yeah. How do we become a better coach?
And I'd actually say I'd like to know where there are tools to learn how to do that. I can't figure out where to find those resources.
Okay. That's a great one, Zach. Thanks. Who else? Next one. Quick.
Most effective ways to bridge the gap between team members and how motivated they say they are and how motivated their actions say they are, or not motivated their actions say they are. It's probably a better way to say that.
It's almost like related to Zach's of being a better coach. Like, how do we get these people into production? Anybody else?
It's literally what I had written down. I had written down the exact same thing: path to production for new agents. So training for getting them on track and in production faster.
Yeah, getting new agents into production. Cool.
Mine was advice on if you have one agent wanting to leave because of another agent, even though they love the brand.
Agent on your team is upset and they want to go because they don't like the other agent. Yeah, I've lived that. I think half of my agents have dated each other. It's super awkward when that doesn't go right. So yeah, good one. Okay, who else? What are you struggling with?
Motivating buyers agents in a really challenging market.
Yeah, keeping that motivation up. Yep. Thanks, Ms. Meyer. Anybody else?
Helping my team discover who they need to be in order to reach bigger goals and leading them.
Mm-hmm. Taking notes as you guys talk. Who else? It's amazing. You guys are top producers. You should be a little bit more like high D-Dar. You guys should be jumping in here and saying, this is my freaking time. I'm getting my answer, my question. Dang it. But you guys are sitting in the back like you're a bunch of passive high S's, but you're not. You're not. Speak up. No. Kristen Rader? No. Galen? Hi, Galen. It's been a long time since I've seen your face. Nobody?
All right, Ben, I'll speak up. I think everyone else covered it, but really the training piece for new agents during COVID is we're struggling with doing the, butt in the seat, so to speak, when we have to stay arm's distance from our own clients right now. So trying to find more creative ways to get them trained and prepared for real market time.
Yeah, good one. Good one.
And for me, Ben, as you know, I bought a building, and so I'm trying to leverage a lot of things. Our team, our Homes for Heroes, I've been, working on trying to get an ISA for over a year. That's not worked out. Expansion is something we've talked about for a couple of years. So it's, trying to be focused and figure out to grow our team, what's the best way to grow our team? When there's a number of different paths you can take, and as you're trying to get bigger, figure out which way to, go and where to focus.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I have a handful. That's good. Let's talk about this. I'd love for you all to kind of take some notes with me for a second, because I want to talk about a few of my philosophies that allowed us to kind of build the businesses that we have today. There was a old example that I've used in Career Visioning or Recruit Select in the past that talked about the two types of businesses out there. One business is entirely built on talent, and they become extremely successful. And another business has been entirely built on systems, and they become extremely successful. So let's talk about these two different types of businesses. First one, NFL. NFL is a talent-driven organization. Now, how do you know that the NFL is a talent-driven organization? Somebody answer.
They have to try out to play.
Yeah, there's a selection process. They have to try out. They have to get drafted. Here's something that pops in my mind, because the same team doesn't win every year. So why doesn't the same team win every year? Anybody?
Talent. The talent changes.
Yeah, talent changes, Darren. They get sick. They injured. They get traded. They retire. They lose motivation. They start doing dog fights. Like, there's all those life issues that happen. They get arrested. There's all these things that happen. They inflate or deflate the ball. Like, there's all this stuff out there in the world that happens that causes companies or organizations that are entirely built on talent to not consistently win every single year. So, Kate, let's talk about an organization that's built really off of systems. And I'm not saying that these people are not talented, but I'm saying you could plug anybody into it and the business still seems to run. That would be McDonald's. It's ran primarily by high school kids, individuals with little to no formal training, and they still continue to be one of the most profitable and successful franchises of all time. Now, why is that? Why is McDonald's so successful? Anybody? Matthew?
Everything is systematized. Like,
yeah.
There isn't anything that is left. No one gets to make a choice. It's just everything is down to the second, and everyone knows how to do it.
Yeah. Have you guys ever seen the movie Founder? Craig, have you seen the movie Founder?
I'm not sure I have.
That's your homework. That's your homework. You guys got to watch the movie Founder, because Founder is basically the story of expansion from McDonald's perspective. And it talks about how Ray Kroc went out there and met the McDonald's brothers, Richard and Maurice, who
I
had
did.
tried to expand and tried to build their business, but they failed.
I've seen
And
it.
Ray Kroc gets in there and says, no, I think this is actually is a scalable business. You just need to have some more systems and models implemented. And he went out there and turned McDonald's into one of the biggest organizations in the world. Now,
Yeah.
I want you to write down another name. And guys, just do me a favor, Google this name. And Den Fujita. Den Fujita was the first one to successfully franchise McDonald's in another country. Now, McDonald's had tried to expand, I think somewhere like Canada or the Netherlands or something like that, and it failed. And Ray was almost ready to give up and just say, maybe it just doesn't work. But this guy, Den Fujita in Japan, who had been successful at bringing other brands into Japan, came and said, no, I'm in for this. I want to do this. And Den Fujita launched McDonald's in Tokyo. Now, here's what's interesting. Den found a location for McDonald's. And because of the way Tokyo is, there's much smaller space. They can't have the type of space that we could have in the urban sprawl world of Washington State. They found a space, and the space was going to be their flagship first locations. And it was in the first floor of a department store. And the department store was only closed one day a year, starting at Sunday at 6 p.m. They didn't open up again until Tuesday at 9 a.m. So the entire thing for Den Fujita was, if he wanted that space, he would have to demo, install, set up, and build the McDonald's restaurant in 36 hours. 36 hours. Can you imagine starting from an empty space and building a restaurant, staffing it, filling it up with burgers and all that stuff in 36 hours? Well, Ray Kroc visits Japan 3 days prior, and he says, let's go see the location. And they show up at the location. It's empty. They haven't started yet. Den's like, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. What Ray Kroc didn't know is that Den had gone and rented a warehouse, and he designed the restaurant to fit to the exact inch of that space. And they built it in there. And then they rebuilt it, and then they rebuilt it, and then they rebuilt it until they were 100% confident that they could build that restaurant in 36 hours. Well, opening day comes, they get it done. They launch. Becomes a huge success. In fact, the next week, they open a couple more restaurants. The next week. Well, Den goes and opens over 3,000 McDonald's restaurants across Japan using that model and that system. That became a very scalable business. So we're looking at two different types of business: talent-based and systems-based. And let me ask you a question. What do you think the vast majority of real estate professionals' businesses are built on? Talent or systems?
Talent.
Talent.
Jody, how do we know it's built on talent?
Because we start with the people.
Well, it's usually a single rainmaker and some administrative people.
And when that rainmaker gets cancer, gets sick, or has to have a big surgery, Craig, or something like that, we sit back and we say, did we have a business or did we have a job? Yeah. Well, for most people, right, they actually realized at that moment that they had a job, they didn't have a business because it didn't continue to operate. John Maxwell said, systems make the ordinary extraordinary. So when Craig's thinking about expanding, Craig does a lot of stuff in Whidbey Island, where the Naval Air Station is. So if he was looking to expand, what you would think is that Craig wouldn't necessarily go to the next city over. He might go to the next military base because he has a model built around working with servicemen and women, right? It's that model and that system that scales. Okay, so systems. A real estate team that's successful runs on systems, not on talent. You can bring kids in that are 22 years old, bring them into your team, and in 6 months, they're producing more than regular agents in your brokerage. They're selling 2 homes a month. Now, what happens to teams who bring a bunch of people in and they don't have the system set up? I have 10 agents. I have 2 agents. I have 13 agents. I have 1 agent. I have 40 agents. I have 0 agents. I'm a title rep. That's usually that process, right? They go, oh, because they don't have systems. They're great at collecting people because agents have great charisma and charm, and they drag and recruit people in, and they sell the dream. But people show up expecting to know how to make a burger. There's no buns. They don't know how many pickles that goes on that thing. They don't know the squirt of onion. They don't know exactly what goes into the Big Mac, McDLT, a quarter pounder with some cheese, a filet of fish, a hamburger, a cheeseburger, a side of fries, a Happy Meal, a Coke, a burger, and a shake. They don't know the menu. Adam, what would it be like if you ran a restaurant and you owned a restaurant and every day the cook came in and they had to figure out what they were going to make? They had to make up a menu every night.
Nightmare.
Yeah, they would end up producing what I call shit soup. Just random stuff. And maybe every once in a while it'd be good. And every once in a while, it'd be okay. But most of the time it's probably just going to be shit soup. It's going to be bad. It's going to be bad. Okay. Now keep writing. I want you to write down 1, 2, 3, 4 on a piece of paper. And we are going to write down what I call my success principles. Now, some of you have heard this before, and I apologize, but you aren't living it, so I'm going to tell you all again. When I first got into real estate, I understood that there was 3 things that were going to make me successful. Number 1 of the real estate success principles, Dar, say the right thing. Say the right thing. That is what we call a scripts issue. Do the agents on your team know what to say? Do they say it the right way? Do we even know what they're saying? Are they practicing on your leads? Are they calling saying, you registered website, home buy? Right? When you say, hey, you got to work your sphere, do you tell them what to say? Or do they just maybe call a couple people and ask them how they're doing? And they never say, hey, just out of curiosity, what are your real estate related plans for the year? Do you teach them how to say that? Jason, or are we just throwing people in there and saying, go work sphere, go call leads, go answer sign calls, knock on doors, right? The first real estate success principle is to say the right things. Now, you've all figured out how to do that or you wouldn't be on this call today. But have you figured out a way to translate that so that your people can say it the same way? Okay, the second real estate success principle. Say it enough times. This is what I call even a blind squirrel finds a nut once in a while, Alexander. Like you could take somebody out there and literally they could say the wrong thing, but if they said it enough times, eventually somebody's going to feel sorry for them and say, yeah, I'll friggin' buy a house with you, right? It's the activity based. Are your agents doing enough activities? Or do you just kind of hang out for 3 to 6 months and wait till they come in and say, yeah, I can't afford to do this. I'm going to go get a job at Best Buy. And if you are getting them to say it enough times, are you helping them identify who they're going to say it to? Are you saying that you got to call your sphere once a month and you got to circle prospect 150 dials a day and you got to do 2 open houses a week and you got to follow up with our leads in this manner? Are you telling them how many times a day they need to have those conversations? Early in my career, I realized that if I called 52 people, I'd talk to 15 and I would get 1 appointment. So if I needed an appointment every day of the week, which every agent on your team needs a new appointment with somebody brand new every day of the week, by the way, that's actually the secret to success. If they got a new appointment every day calling with somebody that wanted to buy, sell, or talk about investing in real estate, they'd be better off. They have to know their number. Back in the day, it was 52 dials, talk to 15, I'll get 1 appointment. That was on average. Sometimes it was the 13th call I got the appointment, and sometimes it was the 75th call. But on average, it was 52 calls. Okay, the third real estate success principle. Have enough people to say it to. This is a leads issue. If you have a sales team, this should not be your issue. Leads right now are plentiful. You can circle prospect, you can act the agents work their sphere, you can door knock, you can work the internet leads that you buy. There's lots of sources of leads, but we do have a duty to give a certain amount of leads to our agents. I try to match it, Matthew. If they do one deal from their own activities, they get one deal from me. They do 2 deals, they get 2 deals from me. Trying to find that balance between there, right? For me, I think it's about 20 leads a month. 20 leads, 1 a day, maybe 30, maybe 15, maybe 10, depending on the quality, Jason. How do we make sure that they have 20 leads a month? That should means if they do their calls and their activities, they should get 1 deal, and they should do at least 1 deal from the stuff that you gave them. Those are the 3 real estate success principles that gets agents into basic production, which is 2 a month. And if your team is not producing, I promise you, it's one of those 3 things. It can only be those 3 things. But earlier I said there's 4 real estate success principles. I asked you to write down 4. It's because once you start producing above that level, then you as the agent are transitioning into being a business owner. Then it's about building a team. So the 4th real estate success principle, Terry, is have enough people saying it. Meaning if you want to be really successful, you need to go out there and make sure that you have enough people saying it. Right, Melanie? How do we get enough people saying those words every single day? Saying it the right way, say it enough times. If you want to sell 1,000 homes, one way to do that is Jason, you can go find 1,000 agents that sell 1. If you want to sell 1,000 homes, you could go find 100 agents that sell 10. You could go find 50 that sell 20. You could go, I'm not super good at math, but we could work that down and figure out like, what's the recipe of doing that? Now, here's the problem. You guys and gals, me included, Eric, is I spend too much time trying to turn a duck into an eagle. I believe in this duck. I believe someday it's going to have a white head. It's going to soar through the sky and grab salmon out of the water with its claws, but it's got flippers. It doesn't have claws. It's not the king of the skies. It's a freaking duck. And it's not even a good duck. It's one of those mud ducks. You know, those ones that smell horrible and they swim in the sewage treatment plant. That's a mud duck. So we're trying to take these mud ducks because we love and care about them. And we're putting all of our time and energy into turning a mud duck into an eagle. There's no amount of time and energy that'll turn a mud duck into an eagle. I've tried for years and years. I loaned him money. I coached him. I went on appointments with him. I gave him my own business. I converted leads for him, right? End of the day, the mud duck just lasted a little bit longer, but they were still a mud duck. Sometimes, I think, what was it, Warren Buffett said, sometimes your time would be better spent finding a new boat than continuing to try to bail out the one that you're in. There's no amount of motivational books or coaching books, Zach, or training that's going to make somebody motivated. The only thing we can do as leaders is hire motivated people. Sometimes they say they're motivated and they show up motivated, but they don't consistently be motivated, Rob. And that shows up 3 months or 6 months or 9 months down the road. You got to have a heart-to-heart with them and have a real conversation, see if you can get them back on track. But at the same time, you should be going out there and finding that replacement, because you don't want to be this rich agent, poor agent, where this year you did good and next year you did bad, and this year you did good and next year you did bad. Those are the 4 real estate success principles. Say it the right way, say it enough times, have enough people to say it to, leads. And then 3rd, have enough people saying it. That's when you run a business and you run a team. Your goal is to get more of those people saying the right thing, saying it enough times, and saying it to the leads that you decide. Just out of curiosity, of those 4 things, which ones are you guys doing the worst at?
Say it enough times.
You're not getting them to do the activities consistently, Darren. Craig, what about you?
I was just gonna say, probably the script practice.
Yeah, they're practicing on your leads. We can go spend more and more money on more leads. Our agents come back and say, these leads suck. These leads are no good, right? I had an agent the other day call and say, I don't think these Brivity Connect leads are any good. I said, what makes you say that? She said, my agents just told me they're no good. I said, all right, do me a favor. Call 20 of them. Just do me a favor. I'll give you all your money back, but you have to call 20. An hour later, she texts me, never mind. I just, never mind. I said, what do you mean, never mind? She said, well, I talked to 3 of them and I got 2 appointments and 1 guy wants to list. I'm like, that's weird. What do you think the problem is? She said, my agents suck. I said, no, that's for you to figure out, but maybe, sounds like it. Right? Here's the real thing. That isn't really what sucked. She was sucking as a leader. So I want you to write down something else. 1, 2, 3. And if you listen to Via and I enough times, you're always going to get these 1, 2, 3s. Via is going to put it in a different order than me, but that's all right. My order is the correct order. Just want to say that out loud, Via. Those are the success principles of real estate. What are the success principles of leadership? We call these the fiduciary duties of a leader. Number 1, to clearly set our expectations. To clearly set our expectations and standards for what success looks like. Early in my career, I used to tell people, hey, if you're going to get a job in real estate, you got to save up 6 months reserves because it's going to take you that long to get a closing. Here's what happened. It freaking took them that long to get a closing. I changed my dialogue and said, I expect you to get a listing and a pending in your first 30 days. And before you start on day 1, Dar, I want you to show up with 1 person that's curious about buying or investing, 1 person that's curious about selling their property or knowing what their home is worth, and 1 person that's curious about a career in real estate. If you do that on day 1, I can help you be successful. You can't figure that out by day 1 with everybody you know, we're going to have a problem. So on day 1, what are you going to do? There's no lack of clarity in that statement, is there? By the way, I expect you to get a pending and a listing in your first 30 days. That's clearly setting the standards. Nicholas, that also means that in order to do that, you're going to call 150 people a day. In order to do that, you're going to do 2 open houses a week. In order to do that, we're going to follow Nicholas's sphere plan. In order to do that, you're going to show up to Scripps in the morning, 8:30 every freaking day, every day. You don't show up, you don't get leads. You don't show up often, you get to go work for the balloon company or the virtual thing. Like, you don't get to stay in my world because my world is filled with producers. We have a culture of productivity. Number 2, the second fiduciary duty of a leader is to inspect what we expect. Another word is we hold people accountable. I'll give you a couple comments on that. Number 1, it sucks to hold people accountable. Number 2, it's super easy to hold accountable people accountable. So if you feel like accountability in your world sucks, it's because you have a bunch of mud ducks and they're swimming around in the sewage plant and they're bringing that stink into your business and they're making their problems your problems. That's a problem, Angela. We don't want that. We don't want that. Now, let's think about this. When somebody's brand new, how often do you inspect what you expect? Anybody?
All the time.
Constantly.
Give me more specific.
Weekly.
Yeah, that is a wrong answer. When somebody comes in, you inspect
Daily.
what you expect every freaking hour until they've earned the right to be inspected every 2 hours, until they've earned the right to be inspected every 4 hours, until they've earned the right to be inspected daily, until they've earned the right to be inspected weekly, until they've earned the right to be inspected monthly. That makes sense? A rocket going to the moon takes thousands of little adjustments. What would happen if they only adjusted the rocket once a week? You'd be in friggin' Mars. You run out of gas. You die. That would suck, right? That rocket needs lots of minor adjustments, not major ones. I would rather you cancel all of your weekly accountability sessions, quit spending 30 minutes with brand new agents, or an hour or whatever you've been doing. Screw it, get rid of it, and spend 5 minutes a day or 3 minutes a day with everybody. That is more productive than doing one-on-ones with people, because the rocket's too far off track. What's the benefit of having scripts every day, everybody? Anybody?
Show up on time.
Yeah, they show up on time, Eric, number one. It makes Eric show up on time, number two, because they're counting on him to be there. Number three, he never has to have a team meeting because he has a team meeting every day at 8:30. And then when you have a problem, you can adjust the rocket right after that meeting. Via, do you got a second? Come into my office. Come into my virtual office. I heard you say something earlier. Sounds like our rocket's off track. We're going to get back on track. The third the third fiduciary duty of a leader is to provide the training, coaching, mentoring, you could add things like technology or systems for them to succeed in their 20%. If you are not doing one of these three things, their failure is actually your failure. It's not them, because you have a fiduciary duty as a leader to set the standards, to inspect what you expect, and to provide the training, coaching, and mentoring that they need. If you don't do that, their failure is actually your fault. So then you go back in there and you fall on the sword and you say, Ms. Brown, I apologize. I believe that I set you up for failure. And because of that, you're not getting the results that you want. And I'm not getting the results out of a relationship that I wanted. And I want to see if you're willing to come back together and let's get the rocket back on track. We had talked when we first met about going to the moon, and I'm still interested. Let's go to the moon, right? Are you willing to come back together and restart today, day one, fresh? We're starting over. She shakes her head. Yes. I said, awesome. Number one, I want to reiterate the expectations and standards, or maybe even say it for the first time, on what success looks like in this role and what you have to do to be successful. I'd like to take a few minutes of time. I want to write it down. I want to get clear. You're going to write your initials here and you're going to understand, right? We're going to be super clear. Number two, I want to talk about when we're going to touch base with each other. Now, I don't like having accountability conversations. So Ms. Brown, can you unmute yourself for a second?
Hi.
I never have to ask you how you're doing in your role, because every night you do what?
I send my numbers every night.
Every night you send your numbers to me. I never have to call and say, hey, how are we doing for the month? How many calls, how many appointments, how many contacts? I don't ever have to ask Ms. Brown, because Ms. Brown always sends it to me. Now, do you send it to me alone, or do you send it to a group of people?
A big group.
A big group. These people are your what?
Colleagues.
Your colleagues. So if you had a really bad month or a really bad day or a couple of weeks, right?
They reach out. They call
kind of
me.
motivate you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody wants to be the worst performer. Not if you hire talented, driven people. By the way, Ms. Brown, you killed it last year. Freaking knocked it out of the park. And I believe that conversation, Adam, lifts the other people up, because she reports her numbers every night, which means everybody else has to report her numbers, which means when she's hit the goal and they have it, I'm sure it gets to them. It gets to them so bad they step up and do what it takes, or they step out and they quit and they go get a job. True?
True.
True. Okay. So if we did those two things, your guys' questions about how do I be a better coach, motivating, getting agents into production, helping them with bigger goals, a lot of the things that you all presented in the beginning would be solved, wouldn't it? If you simply did that list, well, both of those lists, the list of 4 and the list of 3. Okay, what's going through your minds? What are your takeaways from that?
Clearly set expectations. I'm not sure my people even know what they're supposed to do half the time.
No, they're coming into your restaurant and they just look in the fridge and like, shit, I guess we're going to have ham and cheese tonight, because that's what was easiest right in front of them, right? But the sign outside said we're making tacos. That's weird. Remember when Kentucky Fried Chicken ran out of chicken last year? That's super weird. Like, how could you have a Kentucky Fried Chicken and not have any chicken? Or like go to McDonald's and they have no beef? I'd be super mad. Okay, what else?
Accountability starts with us, number one.
Yeah. It's a commitment, Nicholas, that we're making to ourselves and to our people. Okay, what else?
And what about quality people that are not full-time?
Then you should expect, Eric, that they get a part-time result. And that's actually okay with me. Just reset your expectations. It just means, Eric, that you're going to need twice as many people, or that you aren't going to be able to count on that person's production. I do this exercise at the end of every year, Terry, where I go and say, Terry, tell me what your goal is for this year. And she says, it's I'm going to sell 24. And I go to Andrea and she says, I'm going to sell 26. And I go to Don and he's going to sell 18. And I go to Heather and she's going to sell 40. And I go to Karina and she's going to sell 50. And I go to Rick, sorry, Rick, you're going to sell 10. And Alexander, you're going to sell 16. And Galen, he's going to sell 19. I add all those up. That's my total of what my team's goal is. And I just cut it in half. That's almost guaranteed what I'm going to do that year. So if that number isn't big enough for me, I have to go add additional people to my world to make up for that delta, that difference. That make sense? Our success as business owners is just the summation of the success of the people that work in our business. Any other
Hey, Ben,
takeaways?
yeah, I'm real curious. I think we're doing a pretty good job of a lot of those things. And since I've started doing a better job, our turnover obviously is starting to get bigger. And I'm curious what you consider an acceptable amount of turnover. As I hold people accountable, like you said, they either realize their way out of my business or they step into production. I feel like right now I'm taking two to keep.
Yeah, that's okay. How do you fix that, Rick? We get a little bit better at hiring. We get a little bit better at our standards, right, and expectations, and that'll deselect half of the people that were going to join you. I got people that don't join my team all the time that say, oh, I don't want to show up at 8:30. That's too much accountability. I'm looking for the flexible job thing, like flexible hours. I don't have like a flexible results position on my team. So I deselect a lot of those. And then
It's amazing. Sorry.
Rick, and then I have other people that join. And on day 2, I said, hey, you committed to doing this. It's day 2 and you showed up late, right? We don't show up late on day 2. Like, I need you to recommit. Are you still in? Instead of waiting 90 days and then having to have tough conversations in the beginning, right? And then over time, what you worry about is you worry about keeping your best people, not keeping everyone. I don't care if you churn out 90% of your people. I think if that was actually the case, it probably means that you're hiring the wrong ones. You're waiting too long to get rid of them. You aren't setting the standards, or there's something wrong where you're not retaining your people. Well, they don't feel valued or appreciated, or they don't see a big opportunity with you, something like that. So there's 2 things that happen. Funny enough, I don't know, Don Hale, if you remember this, but I walked into the office one day and this lady walks up to me who works at Keller Williams. And she said, Ben, how do you handle all the churn on your team? And I said, what do you mean churn? She said, the people that come and go. And I said, well, who do you mean? And she listed off 2 or 3 people that had quit the team. I'm like, I actually don't even know who they are. I'm sorry. I don't know what happened with those 3 people, but I've never met them. I don't really know. I can look into it if you think there's a concern there. And then later in the day, Don Hale messaged me and says, Ben, how do you keep everybody on your team? And I said, Don, who do you mean? And he said, well, the Melinas and the Nathans and the Johns and the Anthonys and the Ryans. Don was talking about me retaining top people. The lady in the morning was focused on the people that never got into production that left. I didn't care, Rick, if those ones left. I cared that the ones that Don mentioned stayed.
And I feel like that's where we've gotten to. And I was just curious if that's creating a culture of anything on my team, because people are mentioning, okay, well, boy, because we're forcing them out pretty quick. Like if they're not showing up in the first 30 days, and maybe you're right, maybe we need to be doing it even earlier, but we got one right now is 29 days in and we're talking about, heading him out the door. So I just want to make sure I'm not creating a bad culture by doing that.
No, I mean, as as market center owners, do me a favor and try to keep them at Keller Williams. But other than that, the rest of your team, you would look up and just say, hey, you know what? Turns out Galen wasn't willing to do what he said he was going to do. So we're going to part company. We love him, by the way. And the door's open if he ever wants to come back and commit. But here's what happened. Now, for the most part, I never announce people leaving. I think that's silly. I just kind of let it naturally work itself out. I just put them in the basement. I steal their stapler and I stop giving them checks, and it kind of works itself out. And if you don't understand that quote, we're not going to be friends. We're just not going to be a great match personally. Right? So I want to read something to you all because I want to talk about this other problem that I see that nobody brought up. Why is it that we wake up some days and we want to quit? Why is it that we wake up and our agents want to quit? I took a little bit of time and I made a list the other day with Via. And Via, do you have that saved in your notes?
Yeah, hold on.
I'm gonna go through the. I'm gonna go through.
You were driving, and I was like, "Wait, stop, go slow. I'm taking notes. This is really good."
And I have it if you need it.
My notes are all screwed up. They're not saving now.
Okay, Miss Meyer.
Yes.
Miss Meyer is going to help us if we screw up.
Okay.
But this is the reason why people quit your team, why people quit our brokerage, why you feel like quitting yourself. I want to go through this list and I want you to think of, do any of these actually relate to you? But I want you to take, I want you to just take a list of these. One reason why people leave our
I
company.
just messaged you, Ben. It's on the list is on your message.
Oh yeah. Number one, boredom. Anybody in this room ever felt bored of what you do? Like you're hitting the hammer, you're swinging the hammer every day and you're hitting the nail. You're like, holy shit. What if I have to swing this same hammer every day for the next 30 years? You're like, title rep, here I come. We get bored. In fact, Gary Keller said once a really great quote. He said, people get bored with what works, so they start working on what doesn't work. People get bored with what works, so they start working on what doesn't work. I had this guy in Gary Keller's top 100 who reached out to me and he said, hey, I'm having some problems. And I said, what are your problems? Guy made $2.1 million in GCI last year and he lost 47,000. I think that's pretty common in the industry, by the way, is people make a lot of money on the top side, but they don't actually have anything left at the end of the year because they don't manage their expenses of their business the right way. So I'm like, I'd be happy to help you with that. And I said, what else is going on? He's like, I feel burnt out and I'm just unmotivated and maybe I should quit and go do something else. And I said, okay, let me help you on your financial thing and let's see how you feel in a while. Well, this guy texted me a month or two later. And I said, well, how are things going? He said, they're going great. I feel great. I said, that's awesome. What's new? And he said, I bought a taco truck. And I said, you bought a fucking taco truck? What are you talking about? You bought a taco truck. Like you have one business that sucks and you just went out there and bought another business that's going to suck worse. That is the dumbest thing that I've ever heard. What are you doing? Like the only thing worse than one business that loses money is two business that loses money. But he literally, Andrea, he got bored and he was trying to solve this emptiness inside him with adding something else that sucks. Number two, people quit because they hit a ceiling. They wake up one year, call in and they're like, hey, I sold 100 homes last year. And the year before I sold 98. And the year before I sold 102. And they keep hitting the same ceiling. I don't know. I'm not super tall, but I've ran into a couple ceilings and it freaking hurts my head. And at some point I stopped walking that direction because it hurts my head. When people are consistently hitting a ceiling in different areas of their life, they are going to quit. They could be hitting a financial ceiling. They could be hitting a health ceiling. They could be hitting a business ceiling. They hit a ceiling, and at some point they get frustrated and they say, you know what? I got to go do something else. I'm going to go recruit agents for a living at EXP, or I'm going to go try to buy stock for 5% off, or I'm going to go, whatever it might be. They think that by instead of pushing through the ceiling, that they're going to go somewhere else. Now, what happens when somebody creates a habit of quitting in their life? Anybody? Anybody?
The easiest thing there is to do.
Yeah, they get to the next place and they hit a ceiling there too. And then
They
when
never
that doesn't
get
work out,
anywhere.
yeah, go ahead, somebody.
They never get anywhere because they're always quitting before they have the breakthrough.
Yep, exactly. The third reason why people quit, this is really important for all you, because people come into your world and they resign or they quit and they try to make it your fault because they need somebody to blame. They need a villain to justify their actions, but it's almost never you. So the third reason that they quit, they have financial stress. Ran into a guy the other day, great guy, wanted to quit, couldn't figure out why. I said, looks like your business is doing good. And he's like, at the end of the day, he owed the IRS too much money. I'm like, how is quitting going to solve the fact that you owe the IRS a lot of money? That does not solve the problem, right? You just got to work your way through it. You got to pay it off and move it behind you. Number 4, they quit because they feel like they're failing. It may not even be true, but they feel like they're letting you down, or they feel like they're letting themselves down or other people. They feel like they're failing. Kind of like hitting the ceiling, but they just feel unsuccessful. Now, you can work 12-hour days. Let's say tomorrow, we all work 12 hours. Some of us will get home and have more energy and more excitement. And some of us will get home and feel exhausted. Now, the next day, the same group comes and the other group feels exhausted and the other group feels excited and energized. It's not the hours we worked or what we did. Is it the one group won today and the other group lost? And when you win on a daily basis, you come home energized. When you get at the end of the day and you feel like you accomplished nothing, you get home and you're burned out and you feel like crap. You have no energy. Failure, in many ways, man, it just drives us down a gutter. And here's one of the things that I've been working really hard with my partners on. 1, don't compare yourself to other people because it doesn't matter. 2, the only measurement in business that matters is profit. I know people in Keller Williams that made $5 million last year that couldn't go to the car dealership and buy a car with you today. That doesn't make sense. That's the wrong thing. The only thing we should measure ourselves with is profit. That's what we buy burgers with, and we love cheeseburgers. So if you want to buy burgers, you need profit. You can't buy burgers with GCI. You can't buy burgers with pendings. You can't buy burgers with listings, DAR. You can only buy burgers with profit. It's the only thing you can fund your retirement, your vacations, make investments, live a good life, hire talent, those sort of things. Okay, number 5 reason why people quit. They have personal issues we don't know about. They're going through a divorce. They have medical problems. They're fighting with their kids. They're fighting with their spouse. Their parents are sick. There's something that you don't know about. And because we don't slow down enough to ask them how their world is, we don't get the opportunity to help them and save them from that piece. Next, the undisciplined pursuit of more. They bought a taco truck. You don't need to add additional businesses just to cure your boredom when one business is the best. Here's an example. I had a guy say to me, Ben, do you own a staging company? I said, no. And he said, why not? I said, because I don't own a property management company, and a property management company would make more profit and it would be more scalable. He said, do you own a property management company? I said, no, I don't. And he said, why? I said, because a home inspection business would be more scalable and it'd be a better business. And he said, do you own one of those? And I said, no. And he said, why? And I said, because title and escrow would be more profitable and a better business. Do you own one of those? Yeah, I'm just starting that. He said, what'd you do before that? And I said, mortgage. He said, why? Because it makes more money, less hours, bigger upside, right? What'd you do before that? A brokerage. What'd you do before that? A sales team. Why did I do the sales team? Sales teams are the most profitable piece of the real estate industry. You can literally net $1 million and have no lease, no liability, nobody suing you. And you can do it with just a small amount of people. It is the most scalable and awesome business out there. Now, if you don't spend all those profits and you put it aside in a bucket, then with that money, you can invest in the next thing. But make sure you pick the right next thing. You don't get into this habit of having an undisciplined pursuit of more. Number 7, they have fears of missing out. They see people talking about the check they got from Compass, and they didn't read the article last weekend on The Real Deal about all the agents that are trapped and how much money they have to pay if they leave. But they didn't want to be a part of something. They saw the stock that somebody got for 5% off that they could have just bought on a bad day for less than 5% off because the stock goes up and goes down, right? They see all these different things, but they feel like they're missing out. You're not missing out. You're doing something great. Just do what you do great at an awesome level, and then everything else in your world opens up. Those are the reasons why people quit. And then here's the last one. Here's the last one. I'm going to read something to you. And this is number 8. And this is why I stick around, and this is why I keep going. And on my dark days and my bad times, this is why I want to quit. We all need a sense of purpose in our lives, but when we can't find one, it can leave us lifeless and unmotivated. Our daily pursuit of money and respect is shaped by the economy and prevailing social structures, but financial success and the perceptions of others don't correlate well with our sense of purpose. Many of the most successful CEOs say at one time or another, I've made a lot of money and my business has done well, but I feel lost. I ask the question, what is the point of all this? I want you guys to think about that. If you've ever asked yourself, what in the hell is the point of all this shit? Just wave at me real quick. Just give me a wave. Karina, you're smiling, but I feel like you're waving. I feel like deep inside that you're waving. Melanie, you're waving at me. Matthew, you're waving at me. Like, we've asked ourselves the question, what's the point of all this? I thought making $1 million would make me happy. I thought having $1 million in my bank account would make me happy. I thought a car or a house or a girl or a lot of taxidermy or a trip or owning something different or being a coach or being a speaker. I thought all those things would make it happy. And honestly, none of it has. None of those things that I've accomplished in my life have given me the joy and happiness that I need to keep going. I'm going to keep reading. If this is you, try reflecting on who you are trying to serve. It's a powerful way to rekindle a fading sense of purpose. CEOs are so focused on financial performance that they don't make the time to speak directly with their customers or to coach their team. And this disconnect with the human impact is often the cause of feeling lost. This gentleman said, I've had hundreds of coaching conversations about purpose, and CEOs often talk about making a difference, having an impact, or even changing the world. This has led me to a universal insight that's both enlightening and practical. Here's the one sentence I want you to write down. Our ultimate sense of purpose comes from helping other people. The reason that I was able to sell more than 25 homes in a year was because when I hired Jilene, she counted on me and she needed me to do more. And when I hired the next person, they counted on me and they needed me to do more. When we hire somebody, they're not just your workers or your slaves. These are people that signed on to have what you have and do what you do. They didn't sign on to go to send their kids to a mediocre school and have a shitty retirement and see pictures of your vacation house and see pictures of your guys' awards. They didn't sign on for that. They signed on because they thought Colleen was a path for them to accomplish and be what Colleen has accomplished and who Colleen is. When that happens, you have a fiduciary duty to help them have as big of a world as you have. It's the problem with having a small business. You're basically saying that I'm a selfish individual and I don't care if my people have a big world, which is fine. But if that's going to be the case, get an assistant, pay her a shitload of money, and do it on your own. Because once it gets bigger than that, you have a duty to help these people have what you have and do what you've done. There's 2 ending statements that I'll give you all. Number 1, hard work works. It's simple and it's clear. Hard work works. Number 2, always err on the side of generosity. There's nobody in this room today that if you went to jail, I wouldn't bail you out. There's nobody in this room today that if you had cancer, or your husband had cancer, or your spouse, that I wouldn't come and write a check or do whatever I could. If your house burnt down, I would show up, and so would Chris. If you guys need money or a friend or a shoulder to cry on or somebody to talk to, I promise you that I would be there, Via would be there, Leslie would be there, that we would all be there. At the end of the life is about having great relationships with people you trust and people that you're saying, I'm willing to go to the moon with this person through the good times and the bad times. And I didn't sign up for just your good times. I signed up for the good times and the bad times. And I hope you guys know that and believe that. Whether you're in Chris's office or you're in one of mine up here in Washington, you guys can text me anytime you want. Come have dinner, you can hang out. I have a great house right next to my place. You guys are welcome to stay in. If you want to visit someday, my door is open. Next month, we'll have Chris on here, and then Via will have a guest, and then I'll be back again, and we'll jump into the next level of our path to $1 million. Was today okay for you all? I want to point out, I only said the F word once. That's twice. Okay, that's pretty good. That's still good. That's good. Chris is going to be a little bit more proper. I'm going to be the one that you guys are going to want to have headphones on. I
We
apologize.
actually don't have Chris next month. Chris is in two months, right, Leslie?
Oh,
Yep.
okay.
Next month, I've got 2 amazing guests.
Well, text me, call me. Be good to see your faces. Kaylin, it's been a long time since I've seen you. It'd be nice to see your face.
Good seeing you.
Okay, everybody.
Thank you, Ben.
See you next time.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good day.
Thank you.